Okay, so it says that I'm streaming live into the group. So if you can see me, if you can see and hear me, throw me a hello. Just say hello in the comments. So let me know below. I'm just checking. So as you probably know, I like to make sure I'm on. There we go. Definitely live. Okay, let me turn the sound down. Awesome. So we're going to get right into this. Tonight is probably going to be a bit of a shorter live. So if you've got stuff to do, just jump in. Literally, we could be here 15 minutes. We could be here a maximum, I reckon, 30 minutes. And in that time, I'm going to give an absolute ton of value around training, specifically resistance training, what it is, what the best way to do it is, what are the best exercises. So I've got stuff down here like how to get a more toned tummy, how to tone your arms. Like, I'm going to be answering all of those questions. So it's essentially, it's a Q&A tonight. So the more people that turn up, the more people that ask questions, the more you're going to get out of it. And as I said, it probably won't be a long one either. So, you know, it's well worth sticking around 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, getting a whole host of value that you can actually go and then implement and see some incredible results. So before we get into it, just so you're aware, because we get about 30 to 50 new women every single day. So that's what, 200 to 300 a week, sometimes 400 in a week. So for those that are new, I go live every single Monday at 8 p.m. every single Monday. Might be a slight change that next week. There's going to be a bit of a surprise. But I go live every single Monday, 8 p.m. inside this group, giving a ton of value, talking about what's working with our private clients and even have client success stories. Tonight's example is a Q&A. You get to ask me anything, but we always have a specific focus so that you know exactly what to ask. If you're live, throw me a hashtag live. If you're watching this on replay in the future, throw me a hashtag replay, and please still ask your questions because I will come back to them. Whether I private message you or whether I answer them in the comments, I will get back to you. So you have questions, stick them in the comments below, whether you're live on replay. And if you're a newbie, let us know if you're new. For those that are watching, so we've got about 13 or so watching. Normally we get a little bit more, so I can imagine there'll be a few jumping in. Start pressing the like button, the love heart button if you're excited. The reason I'm getting you to comment, the reason I'm getting you to press the like button, the love heart button, is what that does is that starts to show more people in the group that we're live, and it's easier to find this. The more interaction, the more engagement, that means the more people in the group know that we're live, know that this is being shown, and more people will see it. So it'll be able to help more people. We've got like 3,200 people in the group now. I want to be able to give as much value to them as possible. So let's dive in. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the best exercises to get your dream body. I'm going to be, you know, what the best exercise to lose weight is, what the best exercise to tone your tummy. I've already got a load of questions, but as I'm going through, if there's anything I talk about and you want to ask me questions about what I've already said, just stick them in the comments. I will answer every single question this evening. And I've already got some already, so I'm going to get on with that. If there's anything at all to do with training, to do with resistance training in particular, stick them in the comments below. So first things first, and I want to make this super clear, and this is probably going to crop up a few times tonight. Exercise is not necessary. It's not 100% necessary. You don't have to do it if your goal is fat loss and weight loss. Okay, now some of you that are new to the group will probably be going, what? I'm going to drop a link in the comments. It'll be after this live. I won't be able to do it now. I'm going to drop a link in the comments to one of our live trainings, which explains this in loads of detail. But if you're a client that's watching, so if you're one of our clients that's lost weight, which I know there's loads, and you haven't done any exercise, can you comment below now and explain how much exercise you've done and how much weight you've lost? So we've done loads of client success stories. We had Mary, who was she's tiny, and she only had about 10 pounds she wanted to lose, but she damaged her ankle, couldn't do any exercise. When she signed up knowing she couldn't do any exercise. And in the 12 weeks, her goal was to lose 10 pounds. She's tiny. And she ended up losing 13 pounds without doing any exercise. We've got Sam, who lost 47 pounds without doing any exercise. Joe, who had an injury, didn't really do an exercise, lost more than 30 pounds. We've got so many examples to back up the science, and the science backs this up. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through that tonight. That's not what tonight's about, but I will drop a link to the video. And if you're a client, let people know. So if you're worried because you have an injury or you've got things going on and you're like, oh, I can't exercise, I haven't got the time. I've got an injury, you got this, that, the other. Doesn't matter. If your goal is weight loss, if your goal is fat loss, if your goal is changing your health, you can still do it without exercise. All right. But tonight we are going to talk about exercise. So let's get into it. Let's see what we've got. So first of all, the best exercise to lose weight, there isn't one. There is no best exercise to lose weight because exercise is pretty insignificant. It's kind of going off the back of what I've just said. Like, we promote exercise, like in our team. So there's about 7 coaches. There's myself and about 6 coaches, I believe now. We've got personal trainers. We've got sports scientists. We've got life coaches. We've got women that train to help women with eating disorders. We've got nutritionists. We've got a whole host of expertise, including personal trainers. And all of us will say the same thing. There is no one best exercise for losing weight, for getting rid of body fat. Doesn't matter. Like, exercise is really, really good for mental health, reducing stress, reducing anxiety. It's really good for joint health. It's really good for building muscle, getting stronger. All of that stuff is super important and actually plays a massive role in weight maintenance. So long-term maintenance. I'm going to do a live about this at some point in the future. But in terms of weight loss, in terms of fat loss, it can be a little bit helpful, but the impact's really, really small. As I said, I'm going to drop a link to the video in that. So the next kind of question that comes up all the time that I'm going to talk about is, what's the best exercise to get a toned stomach, to get toned abs? Now, obviously, I'm going to give you the straight answer. First of all, there isn't one. Okay. You don't have to do crunches. You don't have to do 30 sit-ups a day, 1 million sit-ups a day. It doesn't matter how many sit-ups you do. Really does not matter. Okay. And the easiest way to kind of explain this, or for you to kind of understand this, and a lot of people, when they talk about, I'm going to talk about toning first of all. Okay, you think about all the structures in the body. We've got bone, can't really do much with that. Obviously, you want to have sufficient calcium and the right vitamins and minerals, micronutrients within your diet to make sure your bones are strong. But you can't really do much in terms of like changing them, really. Like, you've got your organs, can't really do much in terms of those. There's only really 2 structures that you're bothered about anyway. One is fat and one is muscle. Now, you've got fat loss and muscle building. Obviously, you can also gain fat and you can also lose muscle. And as we get older, we tend to lose muscle. But the 2 things that most people want to do is either keep the muscle they have, if not build a little bit of muscle, and lose body fat. So to tone, if you think of your stomach, everyone has 6-pack, or well, maybe not a 6-pack, 4-pack or whatever it is. Everyone has abs. They have abdominal muscles. And on top of those abdominal muscles is a layer of fat. And this goes for every area of the body. Everybody has muscles, obviously, to a different degree and amount. Men tend to have more than women just because we have more testosterone, and just physiologically speaking. But everyone has muscle. On top of that muscle is a layer of fat. Okay, obviously, some people have more, some people have less, and it's not evenly distributed around the body. Some carry the fat in different places. So imagine you've got this layer of fat over the muscle. And if you want a toned muscle, so if you want that muscle to look more defined, you want to see the muscle more, what you're trying to do is you're trying to reduce that layer of fat that's covering the muscle. It doesn't matter if you keep making the muscle bigger. So let's say you don't lose any body fat, but you do loads of sit-ups or you do loads of work in the gym and you're making the muscle really, really strong, but you're not losing any body fat, you're going to have the same layer of fat covering those muscles, even if they're getting bigger. So actually, you won't be more defined. You won't be more toned. So actually, when people say, I want to be more toned, what they're saying is they actually want to reduce body fat. So when you say, what's the best exercise for toning, or the best exercise for toning your arms, the best exercise for toning your abs, what you're actually looking for is to reduce body fat. And as I said, I'm going to drop a link to a video that talks about this, but essentially The best way, the easiest way to get rid of body fat is by manipulating your diet. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, but I eat healthy, or I've got a healthy diet. It's not my diet. I can tell you now, as you know, someone that's worked with hundreds, if not thousands of women, that if you're not losing body fat, if your body shape is not becoming more toned or defined, then you probably need to change your diet, because healthy eating is not the same as eating for weight loss or fat loss. They're not the same. You can eat healthy food and gain body fat. You can eat healthy food and gain weight. So if you want to lose fat, if you want to be more toned, if you want to be more defined, then you're probably going to need to change your diet. And with that, lose body fat. So let me know in the comments, does that make sense? Or if you've got questions about that, stick your questions in the comments and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to have a flick through and see who we've got here before I get into the next couple of questions I've got down. So Vicky's here. Vicky's one of our clients, and another Vicky Fox, was messaging her the other day. Hey, Janet. Janet's a client as well. She's just re-signed. Lou. Hi, Lou. How's it going? Hey, sorry, I always say your name wrong. I can't. Verlaine. I'm really sorry. I am terrible. Deborah, one of our clients, she's re-signed. She's staying with us a bit longer. So Vicky, I've done 20 minutes slow walking 4 times a week, and she's lost 12 pounds in a month. So again, no exercise, just a bit of slow walking 4 times a week. Yvonne, she's live. Hey, Yvonne. Elaine, she's just re-signed as well. So we've got a load of women here that are clients that are re-signing, which is awesome. Lorraine, evening. How's it going? Maria has just signed up today. Congratulations, Maria. So Maria had a call with me today. She signed up. She's just completing her onboarding. She's excited to get started. So awesome to see that she's live tonight as well. Okay, so then as I said, if you've got questions on anything I'm saying, stick them in the comments. Or if there's something you want to know about weight training, resistance training, like toning, anything at all, stick them in the comments below. So one of the questions that came up was, what is resistance training? And actually, I need to correct myself, because my reply was weight training, but it's not. A resistance is anything you're having to exert a force against. So you can do resistance training with body weight. Like a press up is a resistance training exercise. You could use resistance bands, you could use kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. So resistance training is anything where you are pushing or exerting a force against the resistance. And one of the questions I had is, how can you do this at home? So super easy. Like a squat is a form of resistance training. You're going against gravity, a resistance. Obviously, if we're talking about, like, you know, perfect examples of resistance training, we would include some weights in that. Okay, we might hold something. So if you're looking to do stuff at home, and it depends on your level of experience, your knowledge, your expertise. So let's say, you know, you've never squatted before. Okay, you don't know how to squat, your technique isn't great, or you're not sure about it. Then you can just start by sitting down on a chair and standing up. I can assure you, like doing that 20 times, you're going to feel it. Especially if you do it 20 times, give yourself a bit of a rest and do it again, and repeat that for a few sets. So, you know, your set of 20, that would be 1 set. Give yourself a rest, maybe a minute or 2, repeat it again. And you do that a couple of times, you're probably going to feel that the next day. Now, one thing to be aware of, and this kind of puts a lot of people off with resistance training. What happens when you do resistance training is the muscles actually tear. So when you're doing it, you're actually damaging the muscle. And that's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. The muscles tear so that then they can repair and become stronger. So this is how we get stronger. So they adapt. So hence why when people first start doing resistance training, never done it before, they have something called DOMS. Like, let me know in the comments below. If you comment the word DOMS if you've ever had soreness after doing weight training or resistance training. Now, this is normal, perfectly normal, especially if you've not really done any exercise, especially if you've never really done resistance training or weight training before, because you're probably going to be using muscles you've never used, or muscles you've not used much. And this is normal, and it's okay. So you might find that when you start doing resistance training, you do a session, and then I would probably say you're going to need to give yourself plenty of time rest, like maybe 3, maybe 4 days. It depends on your recovery. And obviously, the older you are, the longer that recovery is. So then the next time when you come to do it, the rest of the time is going to be less. So it might be the first time you might need 3 or 4 days rest, and then you might need 2 or 3 days rest, and then you might need 1 day rest. But the other thing to be aware of is when you're doing this kind of training, the best way to do it is either do full body workouts, and then you only need to do a couple a week, or specific muscles, and then you can have less rest between, and you can maybe train more time. So again, this all depends on your lifestyle, your job, what's going to fit in with your lifestyle and your schedule. So if you're super busy and you don't have time, I'd recommend full body workouts. So maybe 2, 3, if you can, squeeze in 4 a week. But if you're talking about doing it at home, just start really simple. If you can't do a push up, so I've got a desk here. So if I can't do a push up, I've never done them before, I might start at my desk. Okay, desk is nice and high. Okay, make sure my bum is down. Or in fact, let's go on the windowsill. Make sure my bum is down, and I'm just going to press hip. Okay, keeping my elbows tucked in nice and tight. But remember, like if you've not done this before, technique is really important. If you're doing movements with poor technique, then you're going to reinforce bad positions. You're going to build muscle in bad positions, which actually could be detrimental going forward. So I'd always recommend getting expert advice, working with a personal trainer, a coach, whatever. This is why we have coaches on our team, and in our coaching app, if we do give training plans, if we do give like workouts for people to do, they have like videos for them to follow. They can record themselves. They can send that to their coach. So we have all of that available. And obviously we have personal trainers in our team so that they can give guidance around form and around all of that kind of stuff. Now, someone also asked, what about if you've got back, knee, shoulder problems? Obviously, depending on the problem, if you're in pain, don't do anything where it causes more pain, if it aggravates it. But you can always get around injuries. You can always get around problems. So if you've got a back problem, so I'm just going to need to plug my laptop in before it dies. You don't want me dying on you. So if you've got a back problem, okay, your back, the muscles in your back are responsible for, if they contract, lifting your body that way. So things like deadlifts, kettlebell swings, anything where you're thrusting your hips forward or you're pulling backwards might put some pressure on it. But I'll be honest with you, like, again, I would seek professional guidance around that. Like this live tonight isn't probably the best place to give exercises or give guidance around what the best exercises are depending on different injuries, because it depends. Because someone with one knee problem might be different to another knee problem. Like there's all kinds of different injuries there. And I don't want to give advice around something where I'm not an expert. So one thing you'll notice is I talk about nutrition a lot because I know enough about it. Like that's an area of expertise. I don't know everything. Like I don't claim to know everything, but I know enough to be able to help people in terms of injury, rehab, in terms of stuff like that. You know, I'd hate to give advice and it not be 100% what the science says. I hope that makes sense. And then the last question I've got from today, in fact, let's see here. So we've already got some comments and stuff. So Lorraine's saying she's live. So Lorraine says, I use a suspension trainer, use my body weight. Yes, so like a TRX, like that kind of thing, that counts as resistance training. Vicky, I get the building up of muscle and the fat layer over the muscle, but I always thought that building muscle meant that you burn more fat. Okay, so Vicky, obviously you're working with us. So in terms of fat loss, the only way to get rid of fat is to use more energy than you consume. So in a day, you'll use energy. You'll use energy by talking, walking, your organs, all of that kind of stuff. Now, if you don't eat as much as you spend, your body has to get that energy from somewhere, because otherwise it will just shut down. Like your brain needs energy to go, your heart, your organs, it all needs energy to run. So if you haven't given yourself enough, then it has to find it. The quickest and most efficient place to find energy is fat. So it will grab fat stores, and like obviously it's not literally how it works, and it will start to turn that into energy, and it will use your body fat stores for energy. So that's how fat loss works. So building muscle, so weight training, resistance training, doesn't burn more fat. The only way to burn more fat is to consume less than you need or less than you use. So hence why diet has the biggest impact on toning. Diet has the biggest impact on fat loss. However, I think what you might be referring to is muscle uses more energy than fat does. So body fat and muscle mass, they require different amounts of energy. So if you had a higher body fat percentage and a lower muscle mass, you would need less energy than someone with the same weight, but more muscle mass and less fat. So the more muscle and less fat you have, the more energy you need. Muscle requires more energy to go. So you would be able to eat more, essentially. However, then people think, oh, well, if I do loads of weights, build some muscle, I'm going to be burning loads more fat. 1 pound, like if you gained 1 pound of muscle, it's not going to make a significant amount of difference. Like, I don't know what the exact number is off the top of my head. I could easily find it out. I think it's like 7 calories a day. You'd have an extra 7 calories. That's not it. I don't even think it'd be a mouthful of food. And to put it into perspective, at menopausal age, it's quite hard to build muscle. Like if you have optimal sleep, if you're training regularly, if you're lifting weights, if you're eating sufficient protein, you've got great genetics, you might, as a female, if you're incredibly lucky and you've got all of these conditions going in your favor, you might gain 2 pounds of muscle if you're new to training every month. So over the year, you know, that sounds a lot. That's 24 pounds. So you might have an extra couple of 100 calories, but that's 24 pounds of muscle. But then the problem also happens is the longer you train, the more you train, the less muscle you can build. Actually, the capacity is almost half. So then the year after, you might, if you're lucky, gain a pound every month. The year after, half a pound. So in terms of the significance of it, in terms of burning fat or utilizing fat, or in terms of increasing your energy needs, yes, definitely has a benefit. You want to sustain muscle. And this is where it helps with maintenance. And I'm going to talk about this another time. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Vicky. If it doesn't, please ask more questions. Please stick them in the comments below and I'll answer them. Elaine, oh my God, Doms, Lorraine, Doms, Elaine, Vile, Vicky, Doms. And Sally said, press up on knees is good if starting out. Yeah, 100%, Sally. The only thing that I would suggest from my experience is I would always go from a higher starting position rather than knees. And I'm not saying you're wrong. You're not wrong at all. The only reason I say that is because sometimes when people do press ups from their knees, so I can't obviously go on, well, I can go on my knees actually, I can go on my chair. When people go on their knees, they end up in this position where their bum's in the air and they don't go into a straight position. So they don't have to engage their core muscles. So it's always better if we can go from an elevated position so that we can have a straight line from our shoulders down to our ankles. And then that means we have to actually engage more muscles. And therefore it's going to be probably better for our overall strength. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing it from your knees. I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Sally, but I'm just saying if you want to engage more muscles, potentially get a slightly bit better, tiny, minuscule benefit from, using your whole body. I'd probably suggest using an elevated surface so that you can keep your whole body straight. And that means then you have to engage your core, your stomach muscles as well. So Elaine, does not extra muscle burn more calories? Yeah, but it's not significant. So what I'm going to do is I'll go and find the exact number so that I can put it in the comments and so you can see, but it's not significant. And as I said, it would take a long time to build enough muscle to make that significant. So, you'd have to stick with weight training. So as I said, there's lots of factors you need to be aware of. So in order to build muscle, one, it's a slow process. It takes a long, long time. So this is when a lot of people say, oh, you're not losing weight because you're building muscle. Well, if that's the case, which can be the case, then you're losing fat very, very slowly. You're probably losing about £1, maybe £2 of fat a month. Like if your weight's not moving, like month upon month upon month that you're doing weight training, your body shape might change, but it's going to be, it means that you're losing fat quite slowly and you are potentially building a bit of muscle alongside it. So I hope that all makes sense. I'm more than happy to do a whole live talking about that, because I think I can really go to town on it. Okay, so Vicky said makes sense. I've literally only got a couple more questions. We've got like 24 people live. So if you've got any questions at all about weight training, resistance training, changing your body shape, the best exercise for X, the best exercise for Y, like how to do it, what are the best exercises, or what would I recommend? Please stick them in the comments, and we'll go through it. There's a couple more things I'm going to go through. So someone said, what weight for dumbbells? So whatever weight, whatever you're using, whether it's dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, whatever it is, start with a weight that you can lift, I would say, for a minimum of 8 to 10 reps, absolute minimum. And the reason being is that you're less likely to get injured lifting weights through that kind of rep range. Like more reps to start with, I would probably recommend for beginners. The heavier the weight, the lower reps, the greater chance of injury, especially if you're not sure on your technique or you don't have someone to guide you there. So yeah, pick a weight that you could do for at least probably 10 reps. Now, obviously, again, that's down to the individual. It will depend what exercise you're doing. So if you're doing, say, a dumbbell squat and you're holding it in like a front rack position, the dumbbell there, you're probably going to be able to do a heavier weight than if you're doing bicep curls. So what weight, again, completely depends on the exercise, but how to include this into your routine. So again, this is very dependent on the individual. If you have a busy lifestyle, I've already said, I would focus on 2 or 3, maybe 4 days if you can, full body weight workouts. And I wouldn't focus on arm exercises or leg. I would focus on what's called compound exercises. I don't know why I've done that, because that's what it's called. Compound exercises are lifts or movements that require more muscles. So for example, a deadlift, a squat, and maybe a press. And the reason they are better, well, they're not better. The reason why they might be more beneficial if your time is less is that if you're doing a squat or a deadlift or a press, you can probably lift heavier weight. You have to recruit more muscles. Therefore, you are probably going to, one, burn slightly, not significantly, slightly more calories, but you're also going to probably elicit a greater strength adaptation, and you're probably going to get more benefits from it. So I would focus on big compound lifts where you can lift slightly heavy weight. Again, if you're new, if you're starting, I would obviously start at a higher rep range, so not as heavy, and then you could obviously build up over time. And when you're lifting weights, you want to lift as heavy as you can, where your form stays good throughout the whole of the reps for the set, but that last rep should be a challenge. If you're doing like 20 reps and that last rep is not that difficult, and it's not, you can do it with good form, but it's not a struggle, you're probably going a little bit too light. So I've hopefully given loads of different tips there, but I'll be honest with you, it's really, really hard, because what I would do with one person would not be the same as what I do with the next person. And I know, speaking to Lindsay, one of our coaches, she's got like 20 years experience. I'd hate to guess how many people she's worked with, like really, really experienced personal trainer, and very similar. She wouldn't give a generic training program. Like, it would be very dependent on someone's injuries, problems, weaknesses, strengths, their time, all of that kind of stuff. So this is kind of where, why another reason why we do this one-to-one program is so that we can give like specific personalized guidance, so that we can give specific plans that fit the individual, and we can adapt programs. Because even if you started off with a program, like, it probably would need adapting over time, especially if you want to keep eliciting change. Okay, so let's see what we've got. I see we've got a few more. Okay, so my core is shot to pieces. How would I begin to change it? What would I have to do? It really is shot to smithereens. So what do you mean by that, Vicky? So is it that your core is weak? Is it that you're like where you've had children, your abs are still split? Is it that you're carrying too much fat on your stomach area? Like, just to be really specific, so I can give you some more specific guidance there. Let me know in the comments and I'll let you know. Yvonne, how many times a week should you do resistance training? Okay, so that's a really good question. Now, you don't have to do resistance training. Like, you can sustain muscle mass by eating sufficient protein. If you're getting good sleep and you're eating sufficient protein, you can maintain the muscle you already have. If you want to build muscle, then it's the best, probably the most optimal way of doing it is through lifting weights or resistance training. For women going through the menopause, estrogen, progesterone levels drop. You increase your risk of osteoporosis. You increase your risk of lots of things. So this is why I would recommend it. However, what you also have to remember, the two absolute vital things with anything, if you're looking to build muscle, if you're looking to lose fat, the two key things are consistency and adherence. And this is where people go wrong. And this is where they go wrong with diets. Because with a diet, they can't stick to it consistently. Like, they have days, cheat days, they have days off. It doesn't work when they're on holiday. It doesn't work when things are going wrong. And adherence, they don't want to adhere to it in terms of they don't want to do it for the rest of their life. Like, who wants to give up pizza, pasta, chocolate for the rest of their life? No one. So you can't adhere to it for the rest of your life. So the same thing applies with training. If you don't enjoy weight training, if you don't enjoy lifting weights, if you don't enjoy the training you're doing, then don't keep doing it, because you're not going to have consistency. You're not going to have adherence. If you like lifting weights, if you like weight training, great. Like, do it, and do it as often fits in with your schedule, your lifestyle. Obviously, if you really, really want to have benefits, I've seen women get incredible results just training 3 times a week. You could probably get, if you've got a really good program, you might be able to get away with 2 times a week, get something out of that. But in an ideal world, 3-4 times a week. You don't need to be training more than that. Like, genuinely, unless you're an athlete or you've got some serious like goals physically, you don't really need to be training more than 3 or 4 times a week. But it depends on the individual, what they want to achieve. I hope that answered the question. Are squats the best all round for lower body and toning legs? So Maria, I don't know whether you saw the beginning of this, but in terms of toning, go back to the beginning of this live. I talked about toning. So the best exercise for toning is your diet, is getting rid of body fat. I love squats. I think they're one of the best things you can do, because you can lift some really heavy weight, which will help you maybe burn a little bit more in terms of calories, not a lot, but also they're great for recruiting your core muscles, your back muscles. They're great for a whole host of things. And, for women, if you want a shapely bum, like, I love squats. The problem with it is making sure your technique's good. And you really want to be trying to squat as deep as possible with good technique without pain. Lorraine, what items can I use from home if I don't have weights for toning? Bingo wings. So Lorraine, toning is about fat loss. If you're looking to tone, you need to reduce the body fat. If you want to build muscle, if you want to get stronger, different question. If you want to get stronger, if you want to build muscle, doesn't matter. Just use anything in the house. Like, if you want to do arm exercises, pick up a tin of beans, use a water bottle. Like, if you've got a large, like, gallon water bottle that's full, like, you can hold onto the handle. Again, be careful with your technique, but use anything. So Sally, what do you recommend for your middle? For what? If you want to get stronger, then like the compound exercises, like the deadlifts, the squats, you will use your core with those. I would recommend various different core exercises. Again, depends on your ability level, your fitness level. If you're looking to reduce fat on your belly, focus on stress management, because stress increases cortisol. Cortisol can lead to fat being more like directed towards the abdominal area. So focus on stress management, focus on sleep, focus on your diet. If you do those 3 things consistently, you will lose fat. And eventually, like, you can't pick where you lose fat from. Eventually you'll lose it from your stomach. Any kind of pressing, Doesn't have to be a chest press, doesn't have to be a bench press, but any kind of pressing. Okay, core is weak. I suspect my abs are split and I'm carrying too much fat in the stomach area. So if your abs are split, which is super common in women, and if you've, after having children, if you've never done core exercises after that, I would probably speak to, so Vicky, I would say that Lindsay and maybe a couple of the other coaches in the group are better to ask about this. I don't claim to specialize in postpartum or, you know, post baby strengthening or anything like that. I know that Kegels are great for working on the internal muscles. If you don't know what they are, Google Kegels. But if any of you have ever had children and you've never checked your abs, there's a really simple exercise you can do. So you can, if you lie on the floor, you press your lower back into the ground. Okay, so make sure you can't put your fingers underneath your lower back. And if you can't do this, then if you can't do that first stage, then you're going to really need to have to work on your core muscles. That shows that obviously there's some weakness there. Once you've done that, try and put your fingers in the middle of your abs. Okay. If the gap is big enough for you to get two fingers side by side and like that, there might be a split. If the gap is even bigger than that. So what that means is then there are certain exercises you probably need to do to try and bring them back together before you start doing things like squats, deadlifts. So this is why training, like, it's really, really important that you actually understand, like, kind of a little bit more than just going and lifting weights and just saying, oh, I've got a program off the internet or I've got my gym membership. There are, especially with women, especially if you've had kids, especially during the menopause, there's things that you probably need to be aware of before kind of throwing yourself in there. Okay, so if you've got some backache, Vicky, like, definitely, like, typically runners have, if runners get lower back pain or knee pain, it's because actually their glutes and their abs are not firing properly, which means their glutes and their abs are not as strong as they need to be. They're weaker than the back and the knee muscles. So if you're getting lower back pain, then it probably does mean you need to work on those core muscles. So yeah, I would suggest maybe putting a post in our private members group and just asking, you know, what are the best exercises for split abs, for postpartum, to strengthen core. And I think Lindsay and Sarah, they'll be able to chime in and be able to give you probably even better advice than I can. So I hope that helps. So I can't see any more questions. Okay, I went on for nearly 40 minutes. Sorry, like, I didn't expect to go on this long. I hope I gave a ton of value. I hope I gave loads of helpful information. If you loved it, press the like button, the love heart button. Let me know in the comments if you've got more questions. So if you've watched this on replay, stick your questions down below. If there's anything else that I haven't covered you want me to cover, again, let me know in the comments. But let me know what you thought. If this was helpful, interesting, boring, like, genuinely give me your honest feedback. The feedback helps me to make sure that next time I do a live, I give you a ton of value. Obviously, I'm not going to plug it too hard, but if you did want to have a chat with me about, you know, about getting that personalized feedback, that personalized plan, that personalized guidance, and you want to start getting results like some of our clients are, just drop the comment, I'm next. We'll have a chat. We'll see if it's a good fit. No real pressure. Like, if it works, it works. If we're going to work together, great. If not, not. And I'll leave it there. So thank you ever so much for everyone that attended. We had nearly 30 people at one time, which is awesome. And I know that we're going to have hundreds that watch this on the replay. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good evening. Thank you so much for turning up. And I will see you again soon.